Hello, welcome back to Sushi LiveENODING. In this episode, I'm gonna show you how to create this abstract sculpture that I made the other day. Basically, this was generated procedurally using animation nodes and Sverchok add-on. Basically, this is like a bunch of text objects kind of blending together into a single sculpture. And I made it so it's now USDZ and I can view it as augmented reality. But I'll show you how to make one. So let's get started. File, save as, ANSV, blend, sculpture. And we're gonna switch to compositing. Let's start with a text object and maybe just rotate it 90 degrees. It doesn't really matter at this point. This text object will be modified anyway. So let's just change it to blend, and we can give some extrusion, give some depth, like bevel edge. So that's kind of okay. The typeface is a bit dodgy. I mean, it's not the prettiest typeface, but that's okay for now, and we can center it. Maybe that's okay, or maybe you want to also offset it in the Y. So it's totally centered. Okay, now let's use animation nodes to do instancing. So basically what we want to do is that we want to duplicate this and kind of rotate it in random fashions until we get like a sculpture. Okay, let's create instance object, and let's get this text object. And we can leave it like that, doesn't matter. Maybe, okay, let's make it like a real copy. And let's create a random Euler. I know that I'm gonna be rotating it randomly, so we just need object transform output, and these objects we're gonna rotate it randomly using this guy. But we need to have the instance, so we just plug in the Euler into this guy, so we get the length, the total number of this instance. Currently we have 5. It's already looking pretty random, but I want it to be more random, so increase the scaling. Okay, so it's a little bit better now. Let's have it 10. Okay, so we have 10 objects, and we perhaps also want to lift it up a little bit. So this is the original. You can change this text at any time. I'll show you. Okay, this is let's say you're using lowercase and it doesn't update, right? You need to go to object instancer, select object instancer in animation node, tap W, and then oops, not W, what's the hotkey? I forgot. But you need you can reset the instance object. So reset source data. Now it's using the lowercase. Maybe I'll be using lowercase anyway. It's more interesting. Okay, so we have this now. What we're gonna do next? So these guys are still text objects. Text object is special object. It doesn't deform. You cannot remesh it, and you cannot do boolean whatsoever. So I'm gonna select this guy. I switch to Sverchok, and I will be using objects in. Oh, by the way, animation nodes is using a lot of memory, so I tend to turn it off at this point. And in Sverchok, we can select these objects, get selections, and then use object viewer. And let's have a look at Sverchok objects. Sverchok object looks like the text object is all back to the origin. Why is that? Because we didn't apply the matrix. We need to apply the matrix transform. So matrix apply and plug in the transform matrix should fix that. So now we should have our object, and because they're kind of behind this guy, so let's go back to animation nodes, and then here visibility, we're just gonna hide these objects for now. So, and Sverchok now We have matrices, we have the vector from this guy, and polygon. All right, so that's correct, and we can bake it. Maybe mesh join first. So mesh join the polygon. So we have like a single object. That's what we want. Mesh objects. This is this guy. Okay, if we bake it out, this is a single object. This is you think this is already completed, but it's not. You probably want to use like maybe you're guessing. Okay, remesh. Remesh is a quick way to do this, but it's also kind of dirty. You can also try using Boolean. Boolean is fine. You can use a script that's kind of go through in each and every object. But I'll show you another quick trick you can do. You can use Blender Fluid. So I might be using the Flip Fluid, or you can also use Blender default Fluid objects, but Flip Fluid can be cleaner. Flip Fluid, however, is not free, so it's totally up to you. I'll demonstrate both maybe. So this is the domain for Flip Fluid, and we have this really strange object sculpture. They are kind of like touching each other, but we're gonna use Flip Fluid to convert it into fluid objects. And in this latest version, I think we need to specify the target frame. By default, it's 0, but our frame start at 1. We need to change this to 1, otherwise it's not gonna work. And total frame is gonna be, I'll just make it 3 frame. And these objects, let's make the resolutions a bit higher and just bake it up. And let's wait a few seconds. Hopefully this works. You can go higher, but I think Flip Fluid is really fast. So there we go. It's already fluid and it's already meshed together. So that's how I actually create this. And I render it out using Eevee. You might have seen it, or you might not, in a previous video. So I render it out using Eevee. So it looks like this. It's a sculpture. It's very abstract. Maybe you can call it ugly, but it's kind of interesting for me, because with this technique you can kind of blend all kind of different mesh together. It's very brutal kind of art, but it's interesting because, and in our setup we can actually go back and then add more text, for example, or change the text. This is part of my blend project. So this guy, of course, we can increase it a bit higher, 150 resolutions, and then reset the bake, and then continue the baking. Of course, remember this is a fluid object, and with fluid objects you can be really creative. Currently, this is just like a floating mesh, right? It's not really beautiful. It's actually quite weird. But you see, this is higher mesh, and if you look at the resolution, it's quite okay. It's not too bad. And with this resolution, let's investigate this a little bit more. So we have our fluid surface. Just copy it into buffer, and new scenes, we just paste it there. So we have these objects. Not too bad. If you want to remesh it or decimate it, it's fine. By the way, by default it's going to be locked, so unlock it, because this is like originally fluid object. And you want to also set origin to geometry. If you want to showcase this, always like use Eevee for a quick one. Fluid abstract Eevee. So in just like a few minutes, we really create something using fluid, animation nodes, and Sverchok add-on. I think it's pretty powerful. So let's open it up. Fluid abstract Eevee. There's Eevee showing a bit of wireframe. Eevee, it's really cool like that actually. And let's shade it with a matcap scene. I don't have any light, do I? No light, nothing. But matcap always works for a quick showcase. Very cool. Oops, whoa, that's really random. I wonder if there's a quick way to switch between different matcap. Maybe there's a shortcut, I don't know. But yeah, that's quite nice. It's pretty random, but you can see it's a text blend, and I blend it together using fluid, and this is quite okay. And I think it's something. It's they are floating, but if you make the text kind of touching each other, you can print it out, and it's a sculpture. You just need to make like a cylinder, for example, and just make like a stand, you know. This is your sculpt. Maybe make yourself like using your name or your partner's name or your parents' name, and just blend it together, and that's an art right there. So yeah, there you go. That's just an idea. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.